They called themselves a different kind of car company, and for a brief period in the 90s, they were right. They had a car that could survive a shopping cart attack without a scratch. They had a no-haggle price that actually treated you like a human being. They had homecoming picnics in Tennessee with 40,000 car owners. Saturn was more than just a car brand. It was a cult. But while those customers were celebrating, the management was making decisions that would destroy an icon. This is the story of how General Motors built the perfect company and then murdered it because it was just too good. Welcome back to Business Boss. If you owned a Saturn SL or SC back in the day, hit that like button. I know a lot of you did. To understand why Saturn died, we have to first know why it was born. In the early 80s, General Motors was getting crushed by the reliable and affordable cars from Honda and Toyota. Its factories were becoming war zones between management and unions, and dealerships were fighting each other for sales. So, their CEO Roger Smith decided to do something radical. He knew that building a new model or a new car just wouldn't cut it. So he built an entirely new company instead. That company was called Saturn. They started off with a completely clean slate. They set up a new factory in Spring Hill, Tennessee, where the old rules of how labor and management worked were thrown out of the window. There were no time clocks. Saturn workers were salaried, just like management. They worked in self-directed teams that hired their own members and could stop the assembly line if they saw a defect. Crucially, they had a pay structure based on risk and reward. If quality and sales were high, workers got bonuses. Seniority was not the criterion for success. I'll talk about why this became a huge issue later on, but at the time it was a massive breakthrough. And it paid off. This democratic worker management setup came out with a truly innovative car, the Saturn S-Series. Launched in October 1990, it started at around $8,300. While it wasn't the fastest or quietest car in the market, it had one superpower: dent-resistant polymer panels. You could kick it. You could slam a baseball bat into it. It didn't rust, and it didn't dent. But they didn't stop there. They created a brand new dealer network where you didn't have to haggle. The price on the sticker was the price that you paid. For a guy in 1990 used to fighting with car salesmen for hours, this was a revelation. You walked in, you drank their coffee, you bought the car, and you left. The combination of a bulletproof car, a happy workforce, and a stress-free dealership was atomic. In just 3 years, they reached their peak sales of 286,000 cars and continued to sell close to that number for the next 3 years. But more than just selling cars, they built an army of loyalists who attended company picnics by the thousands. Saturn had done the impossible. They proved an American car company could beat the Japanese. But in the corporate world, success doesn't always bring rewards. Sometimes, it puts a target on your back. Now, most people think Saturn died because they didn't expand their lineup in time. That's true, but it's not the only reason. Saturn also died because of a war inside the labor union. Saturn's Spring Hill factory operated under a completely different arrangement than the rest of the country, and in the beginning, the workers loved it. But the national leadership at the United Auto Workers in Detroit absolutely hated it. They saw Spring Hill as a threat. They believed the Saturn partnership model weakened the union because it blurred the lines between labor and management. If Saturn succeeded without the standard union rules, GM would force every plant to give up their seniority rights. Now, the initial employees who started at Spring Hill were people who had chosen to come there as part of the experiment. But in the late 90s, laid-off workers at other plants started utilizing their transfer rights to move to Spring Hill. Suddenly, Spring Hill had thousands of transferred workers who hated the entire partnership model. They wanted their seniority rights reinstated. They weren't interested in partnerships. They just wanted to punch in their time clock, do their job, and go back home in the evening. It became a political bloodbath. In 1998, the workers voted 2-1 to remove the union reps most closely associated with the partnership model, and by 2000, the experiment was over. The union leadership was ousted, the unique contract was scrapped, and Spring Hill became just another GM factory. The soul of the company was gone. While the Union War was raging, there was also a change in the way GM looked at the company. Saturn was the brainchild of Roger Smith. It was built by taking out almost $5 billion from other divisions. The managers at Chevy and Pontiac hated it. They saw it as a spoiled child getting all the special treatment while their budgets were cut. Moreover, after Smith left, the people who came in thoroughly disliked his ideas. They felt that the whole concept of Saturn was a threat to the common parts, common systems philosophy of Jack Smith. The result? They started starving the company. For almost a decade, Saturn was given only one car, the S-Series. Dealers were begging for a mid-size car or an SUV, but GM kept saying no. They were funneling all the money to Buick and Oldsmobile, which was sad because Oldsmobile died anyway. Saturn was forced to stop building unique cars and start using shared GM platforms. In 2000, when the L-Series finally came out, it simply wasn't a Saturn. It was a modified Opel Vectra from Europe. It had steel doors. It dented. It was boring. Then, in 2003, came the Saturn Ion. It had the plastic panels, but the interior felt cheap, and the steering was numb. But the ultimate insult came in 2005, the Saturn Relay. It was literally a Chevy Uplander with a Saturn badge glued on the front. It was ugly, it was metal, and it was cynical. It proved that GM no longer cared about a different kind of car company. They just wanted to fill a slot. Tragically, right before the end, Saturn tried to find its way again. In 2000, they released the Saturn Sky. It was a gorgeous, true sports car. Then they came out with the Saturn Outlook and the new View. The product lineup was actually getting good again, but it was too late. The 2008 financial crisis brought GM to its knees. To get a government bailout, GM had to kill off half of its brands. Saturn was on the chopping block. There was a brief hope that the brand might get sold to Roger Penske. But at the 11th hour, the manufacturer who was going to build the cars for Penske pulled out.
The deal is off, and General Motors' Saturn brand is now dead. Race car legend Roger Penske is reversing course and canceling his ambitious plan to buy Saturn from GM. This move means that the 25-year-old Saturn brand is headed for the automotive junkyard, and I'm sure there's a song by Meatloaf.
On the 1st of October 2010, Saturn was officially dissolved. In the end, Saturn proved that an American car company could beat the Japanese on quality and service. They proved that factory workers and management could actually work together. But they also proved that in a giant corporation, being different is dangerous. GM killed Saturn not because it failed, but because they didn't know how to handle its success. Did you own a Saturn back in the day? Let me know in the comments below and subscribe to the channel to get more such videos in your feed.